And that 1984 conference, I was the president of the NAJC until that time, and then Art Miki became the president. And that 1984 conference in Winnipeg was the start of the real redress movement. And from that period, I think from 1980 to 1984 on that Winnipeg conference, we could consider it a period of the Japanese Canadians, or the Nikkei, trying to get together in Canada and to think. So I think that 1984 conference was the real beginning of the redress movement. We had plans how to start the redress in the various regions and then build it up so that the national body, Art Miki and the other national executives, can make the presentation to Ottawa and the appeal, and we did a number of studies and so forth. And that negotiation went on for 4 years, and then 1988 is when the Canadian government gave the apology and announced the redress to the community and to individuals. And at that time, the compensation or redress to the individuals was $21,000 for anybody who went through the actual evacuation, the relocation. And then there was a $12 million fund for the Japanese Canadian community. So with that $12 million, the Japanese Canadian Redress Foundation was formed. And this consisted of various representatives across Canada, and they would receive applications from the Japanese Canadian community for worthy projects. And just around that time, in Vancouver, there was always the desire to have a place to meet. And people like George Oikawa, who passed away, but he was very active. He was in the real estate business, so he just volunteered all this time looking for an appropriate place. So in 1988, right after the redress agreement, 1989, I believe, and people like Mark Ando were very active in trying to let's build a place. And so in order to build a center, of course you need money, you need funds, and of course you need a place. So what happened is we formed what is called a site management committee in 1990. The site management committee consisted of 5 organizations in Vancouver. And the site management committee was to look for a place. And so the site management committee also applied to the Japanese Canadian Redress Foundation for funding to purchase property. And we applied for a $4 million funding, and we received $2.5 million from the Redress Foundation. And when that was known, we officially formed the National Nikkei Heritage Center Society. So the Site Management Committee became the National Nikkei Heritage Center Society. A funding of $2.5 million was received. And with that, and with George Oikawa's ongoing search, we were able to acquire the 2.5 acres where the present Nikkei Heritage Center is. And when we were talking about plans for the Heritage Center, and people called it the Cultural Center, the Community Center, whatever, we learned a lesson from before, or from around that time, that we want to do something for the seniors. And if we're going to build a cultural center, then we should have something for the seniors. In other words, many years ago, and that time, many years ago, there was a theory that, you know, when seniors get old, they should, you know, you should find a remote, quiet place out in the country where they can live peacefully, you know, forever after, and grow old gracefully and, you know, in a quiet place. And that was entirely wrong. You know, when people get older, they really seek and they really want the things that they grew up with, whether it be the food or the language. And so when we were planning the cultural center, the Nikkei Heritage Center, we said, we're going to have a seniors thing. And that's how the new Sakuraso happened. So in fact, the new Sakuraso, with government assistance, was opened in 1998, 2 years before the center. And the new Sakuraso, we called it the new Sakuraso because there was a Sakuraso on Powell Street. It was almost like a rooming house. And the new Sakuraso was a senior's residence. But at the same time, we also had in mind that we would also want to build something for the seniors who need a little bit of assistance. So that's the Nikkei Healthcare Center. By the time we had that property and we had our plans for the center, we knew that we were going to have 3 facilities. The Heritage Center, the Cultural Center, and the new Sakuraso, the seniors' residence, and the care home. So those were always in our plans, and I think it was the right thing to do. And we were fortunate. We went on with the $2.5 million. We purchased a property and started the work to build the center. New Sakuraso was opened first, and to open the Heritage Center, we had discussions with the architect Raymond Moriyama out of Toronto. He's Canada's one of Canada's foremost architects. We had many discussions with him, and it was his concept to have an oval shaped lobby. The 2 pillars there are representing Japan and Canada. So with the property and land purchased and the building planning in place, we did a lot of estimations, a lot of calculations, a lot of speculations. How much can our community raise? And because the plans that the architect came up would call for requiring somewhere, originally it was 12 million and then it was 10 million. And at that time, I, and of course the others working together with everybody, we didn't think our community could raise 10 million. And we thought if we worked it properly, if we did our homework and did our planning, maybe we could raise $7.5 million. So with that figure, we had the center designed to be built within that limit. And we went on a fundraising campaign from 1994. And by the time we opened in 2000, we had raised just over $8 million. And we were very happy we were able to do that. But thanks to the support that was shown by so many people, you know, there's a government, the federal government, provincial governments, of course, businesses, some businesses in Japan, and of course the people. So that $7.5 million fundraising generated more than 2,300 donations, large and small, that raised yet $8 million. So that's how the Nikkei Heritage Center was built. And I might add that around that time, we had several discussions what to call the building, and some people said, well, it should be the Japanese Cultural Center. And then there was a group that said, well, it should be Japanese Canadian. And then some people said, well, if it's Japanese Canadian, that might exclude the new immigrants because. So anyway, with a lot of discussion, we said Nikkei is a word that can be accepted by everybody. So that's why we called it the Nikkei and the Nikkei Heritage Center. Yeah.